with the nextgenusa.com. Our guest tonight is Oscar Portillo, candidate for Los Angeles City District number 6, and my partner in crime, Will Griffith. How you guys doing tonight?
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Are you, Oscar? Good, good, good. Hey, Oscar, I was looking up how many people are running. There's 19 now running.
There's quite a few. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? Why do you think all this mass is coming out?
To be honest with you, I mean, I hate to say it, but I know, for quite a few of them, it's probably just egos. I'm familiar with a couple of them on, and I know it's just to feed their ego. That's really all it is. For the rest of them, I really haven't looked into them or what their policies are or anything like that. I'm kind of just more focusing on me, on myself, and what my policies are. So yeah, I'm just hoping that they're genuine, that they really do want what's best for the community and for the residents. So I guess only time will tell.
What I want to start out with is you telling us how to contact you, how to volunteer for your campaign, what cities can help. Tell us a little bit about that so the audience knows.
Well, I want to unveil my my website today. It's Oscar, the number 4, LA.com. And before I talk about that, I want to give a huge shout out to my website designer, Allison. If it wasn't for her, I'd be completely lost. I mean, I was before that, I was looking around for somebody to find to do my website, and people were just charging outrageous prices. I mean, there was one guy that told me he'll charge me $1,500, but he'll do the website, but I need to do after that, like he'll just do it, but I need to take care of all the details. And I'm like, I don't have knowledge in websites or anything like that. And it was funny because, I am a religious person. I go to church, I pray to God. I'm not like so religious, but I remember there was one time where I prayed to God. I was like, look, God, please, I'm having trouble finding somebody that'll do a website for me. Please bring me somebody. And it was funny because, call it coincidence or whatever you want. But the next day I got a contact from Will. And he was like, yeah, you know what? I actually have somebody that can do your website. So we were talking. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And, we kind of joke around because I tell him that, he's heaven sent, because I call it coincidence, call it God answering my prayer, whatever you want it. But once I saw the website that she did to me, like I was floored. It was way better than I expected. I knew it was going to be good. I didn't think it was going to be like that. So I have to give a shout out to her. She did a fantastic job. Truly heaven sent, truly. So again, it's Oscar4LA.com. It's Oscar, the number 4, LA.com. And also, aside from that, they can contact me on Facebook. It's just my name, Oscar Portillo Jr. I also have my Instagram up, which is Oscar4CD6. And, I am looking for volunteers right now, at least to, help me with guidance or at least to gather signatures. So this Saturday, I will be at the Ralph's on Laurel Canyon on Roscoe around 11 o'clock from like 11 to 2. So if they want to come and even just give me a signature, I'm totally fine with that. So yeah, at this point, I can use all the help I can get.
And Oscar, that's a good time for them to get to meet you face to face and put a face to the name.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just not people. What cities does CD6 cover so that anybody can come to the Ralphs and meet you if they want to meet you and ask you about some of your points of views?
Yeah, the in CD6, it's Sun Valley, parts of North Hollywood, Arleta, Panorama City, Van Nuys, and Lake Balboa. And, that kind of what sets me apart from my other candidates because I'm literally walking door to door. I work full time. So, I get out of work at 5. I come home at 5:30, eat something real quick, and I'm going and knocking on the doors. And the residents, they kind of look at me like, oh, what do you're doing this alone? I was like, I'm doing this completely alone. I have no volunteers or anything. And like, I kind of like it like that because as I talk to the residents, they see me for what I'm doing and what I can do for the community. They're asking questions. They're telling me what sets you apart from everybody else, what sets you apart from the other political actors. And I just tell them my views. And, I tell them that, what my primary goal is to take back our streets. I'm tired of the crime. I'm tired of the violent crime, the street robbery, street racing, street takeovers, the trash and filth that litters our streets. And we deserve better. We deserve better, and I will give you better. I'm not a politician. I'm not a political actor. I just at least give us clean streets at the bare minimum, at least that. And they can't even do that.
Right. So what are your thoughts on the new mayor and her emergency
Homeless
call to
shelter?
emergency for the homeless program or people?
I was looking very closely into that, and I just hope she's genuine. I mean, we've heard this plenty of times before. We need an emergency this for the homeless, but I just hope she's genuine because we need to do something. The homeless situation, it just gets worse by the year. We dumped all this money into homelessness. Like, the city of LA was giving $4 billion alone
Yep.
just to deal with the homeless, and it's worse than ever. It's worse than ever. So I'm hoping she's the light that we need, because Lord knows we need it.
Unfortunately, she's depending on the LA City Council to sign off on it. And I don't know if they've already signed off on it. I know Miss Monica Rodriguez has posted on her website that to dial the number 211 if you need assistance for homelessness. Kind of makes no sense to me, because if they're homeless, there's a good shot that they don't have a phone. So
They
I'm
don't have
not
a
sure
phone
how
or
they're
IDs.
right, how they're going to get in contact with them. I'm not sure. But I think, like your plan, I think they need to go person to person out in the streets.
That's exactly what we need. We need
and-
outreach.
Right. That's the only way to do it. And I've mentioned in previous shows that when I was stationed at the National Guard Armory in Glendale, they used to use that armory for the homeless people, especially in the
That's
wintertime.
amazing.
Right?
That's amazing.
And they stopped doing it
Mhm.
because politicians get involved and it's not a good idea. I thought it was a great idea, even though I worked there, and it was kind of before they cleaned up, it was pretty messy, but it kept people warm at night. It was a government facility, so it really didn't cost the taxpayers much. It's already paid for. And you had people working there from the Weingart District, homeless program in Glendale, working together, feeding them and making sure that they had, toothpaste, toothbrush. At least every night they had a warm place to sleep. And they stopped that.
At least
Right.
that.
I'm not sure why they stopped it, but they stopped it. And I'm sure it has something to do with some political actor not getting enough money for the program.
Or recognition.
So there's a lot of things that they can do that, I mean, I'm not an expert, but I do know there's other states that are handling their homeless program better than we are.
Mhm.
And maybe we should mimic that plan. We don't need to reinvent anything. We can just, hey, it works. Let's try it. And we don't do
Well,
that.
Tony, it was like Bill Clinton when he was running for president in the primary debates. He basically said, I refuse not to listen to an idea simply because it isn't my idea. And I agree with you. California has to do something hugely different.
Well, I think, and I think you mentioned it earlier, Oscar, some of the people running is because of their ego. Same thing with anything to help people. It has to do more with ego than actually wanting to help the population out there or the constituency. They talk a good game, but they don't really have a plan of action, right?
It's all political acting. It's
Right.
all political and acting. You'll know when it's election season, because that's when you'll see the political actors out there talking to the community, right there. Talking to students in school, with a photo op. That's all it is. That's all it is. And you can tell when it's election season, because finally the streets will be cleaned.
Yep.
Things will start getting done when it's election season. But when it's not election season, that's when the streets are crap.
It goes back to the way it was before they were elected. Exactly the truth.
And I experienced that during my campaign with people that I thought I actually believed that they were running in the best interest of the people, but as they lost the election or they didn't make it through, you see the real person then, right? The person that's not getting involved, not getting engaged. They like to post about MAGA this and MAGA that, but they don't do anything else, right, for the community. They're not engaged. They're not trying to find out why crime is so bad. It was all about their ego.
It's all about
and it was a
the
shame.
ego.
And it was a shame because a few of them profess to be Christians, these highfalutin Christians that want to help. But as soon as the election was over, they're done being Christians. So it's kind of sad to see. So when you talk about outreach, how would you do it let's talk about the homeless right now, because that's a big issue in LA. How would you do it if you got elected?
Yeah, what would I do? I'm glad you
Yeah.
asked that. I would go talk to the people that know how to solve the homeless issue, the shelters, the homeless outreach specialists that go out and talk to the homeless, the ones that give them the houses. Those are the ones who know how to solve it. The people on the council, they don't know how to solve it. We're giving them all this money, but they don't know what to do with it. We need to give it to the people that know how to solve the issue, the homeless shelters, the churches. Those are the ones who know how to solve it. I would work with them and tell them, okay, what do you guys need? What do you need from me? So that's what I would do. And also, like with the homeless, another thing I would do is I would go talk to the landlords. I would tell them, hey, you know what? I have a homeless family right here. They're not on drugs. They're not mentally ill or anything like that. They just need somewhere to live. We need to get the landlords involved as well, because obviously, you know, when you hear the word homeless, you just hear, or you think like mental illness, you think drugs. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And so no landlord is going to take them like that. But if we have homeless outreach specialists that go talk to the landlords and educate them, I think we'd be able to get a lot more people housed that way and off the street. Because unfortunately, right now, all the homeless that we see on the street, that's all mentally ill. It's all drugs. The real homeless are the ones that are in the shelters trying to get off, trying to not be on the streets because they want no part of that life. Those are the real homeless. The ones that we see right now, it's all drugs, it's all mental illness, unfortunately. But they still need help as well.
Right. And I got a great example for you. We have a guy named Patrick in Sunland.
I know him very well.
You know Patrick, right?
I sure do.
They don't have the capacity to help him because, as you know, Patrick, he's got some mental issues, some drug issues, but they have enough to come and arrest him on a warrant, right? Mm-hmm. To me, that's a waste, right? You come out all the way because everybody knows where he is. You come and arrest him for open warrants. A guy that we know can't pay for the warrants. We know the guy has a drug issue. We know he's got some mental issues. Less than 6 months ago, they had to rescue him, use that Narcom or whatever it is to bring you back, because he overdosed, right?
He overdosed, yeah.
But they had 6 patrol cars to arrest a homeless guy. That's a waste of manpower, number one. Number
waste
2,
of manpower, waste of money.
We know about Patrick. It's not a secret. We know what his problem is, but we don't do anything to put him in a facility to try to help him, right? Mm-hmm. To include his family, because he has family in Tujunga that won't help him, right? So Here we are. We have assets that we're wasting instead of trying to help this guy get off drugs at least make an attempt to get him off drugs, right? We can't succeed with everybody, but we could try. And we don't do a good job of trying, in my opinion.
You know, there's one thing called the gravely disabled law, and I want to really look into that and maybe even update the literature for that. It's I don't know, I can't remember exactly what it states word for word, but it's a gravely disabled law for those mentally ill individuals that can't fend for themselves on the street, to where maybe they are put like in a facility or something like that. Because, you know, let's be real, it's immoral and wrong to leave somebody with the mental capacity of a 5 or a 7-year-old to be subjected to the mercy of the streets. It's immoral and it's wrong. It's just like leaving a child to be subjected to the streets. The gang members are going to take them because, you know, the homeless are preyed on as well, and they're preyed on by the drug dealers and they're preyed on by the gang members. Sure. So we need to take care of them too, even if it is removing that criminal element. You know, so that's one thing I would want to look into is the gravely disabled law, and maybe even update the literature for that.
We have to do something besides talk. There's a lot of talk.
There's a lot of talk.
Everybody they have all these brilliant ideas, but we don't, first of all, we don't copycat anybody that's successful at anything, because we don't want to say it's not our idea. You know, Newsom would never sit there and say, I'm going to copy what Florida's doing because it's not his idea, right? Mm-hmm. Florida just cut taxes on baby items, dog food, all kinds of things, and 50% on the tolls to help the people in Florida. Now, that's the sign of a leader, right? He understands the problem. He understands what's going on in his state, and he's willing to do something to work with the people. Mm-hmm. We don't get that because, you know, if it's not my idea, I don't want to do it. That's really the mentality of it. Whether
exactly.
Does LA have a crisis response team?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Does LA have a crisis response team?
I know they do.
They
The
do?
LAPD specifically, they had the Hope Team, which is called the Homeless Outreach and Proactive Engagement Unit. But when the city council and everybody else was calling for the police to be defunded, that was one of the programs that were removed.
Yeah,
What was the Hope Team,
we have
the
one
Homeless
out here.
Outreach?
They're separate from the police department, and they're called our crisis response team. Officer gets on the scene. He knows this person got some type of mental issues or psychological or something going on. The radio dispatcher, can you send me the crisis response unit? That way things don't get escalated.
Mhm.
And they'll come out there and they are more capable of handling it because they're social workers, psychologists, and stuff like this. And maybe they have more resources that they can do that with.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know. As far as I know, we don't have that in LA. I mean, we might. I'm not really sure. If we do have it, it's never advertised.
Yeah, we had a great.
I know that there's things that the government can do that we don't do for people. We're sure quickly to take their money if they owe us money, or in Patrick's case, let's arrest him and put him in jail. Okay, so he gets three meals a day and he's in a warm environment, but that doesn't help the problem.
Right.
So once he gets out, the problem is still going to continue. I don't know about where you guys live, but in Tahunga, it gets down in the 30s at night. It's cold out there for these people to be wrapped in a blanket, sleeping in cement.
It's horrific condition.
And yet we have people running for office who don't want to talk about that specifically, right? They want to focus on whatever the issue is of the day instead of what's really happening.
Getting vaccinated. That's the main thing I'm hearing about, getting vaccinated.
Putting vaccinated people against unvaxxed people, right? Or making up numbers about COVID hospitalizations. Why is it only one hospital claiming all these people, right? The Children's Hospital is the only one claiming all these kids in the hospital. Is it really COVID? Maybe it's RSV, maybe it's the flu, but we always blame COVID for everything. Right?
Unfortunately, it's a money's game.
It
is.
Absolutely true, Oscar. Tony, I have to leave early tonight, but I want to say a few things first. First of all, Oscar, you have re-energized my faith in the process.
Oh, thank you.
And we are proud to support you as a candidate. To Tony and Mike Riker and Al Collins, who's not here tonight, he's at a Christmas party for the Chamber of Commerce. The best team I could ever work with. 100%. And I have faith in each and every one of you and what we're going to do to help change not just history in LA, but history maybe even across the country, if we're lucky. And God smiles on us. But I have a rendezvous. I have a rendezvous with Destiny tonight.
Well, tell Destiny I
my
said
wife. But I'm proud of each and every one of you, and I will listen to the rest of the show once the archive is up.
Roger that, sir. Have a good night. Tell Allie I said hi.
You too. I certainly will. Salute you all.
Later, Will.
And another good thing is when you go around and you talk to these people and they sign you up or they sign your sheet, take a notepad with you. Say what concerns you the most.
Oh, I've been talking to every single one of them.
And you make
every single one of them.
You make a note of it. Then the way they're saying, okay, he took notes, so he's really paying attention to what I want. And then you can kind of develop a plan from there. Because a lot of the bullshit politicians come out and they say, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Okay, you're talking about A. How are you going to get to Z? And they got no clue.
And that's actually what I'm hearing from a lot of people, to where they're like, okay, well, what sets you apart? They're like, everything that you're telling me, I've heard before. And I was like, and I don't blame you for that. I've heard it all too. I've heard, they make all these promises that they're going to do this and they're going to do that. And it sounds all nice and sweet. But when it comes down to when they're elected, they disappear. They don't do anything. Or they're talking about other things that are kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's the good thing about going door to door is that I've been talking to the people and they all seem to have the similar issue, is that they want clean streets. That's the main thing that they want, clean streets and something to do about the homeless and the mentally ill on the street.
Yeah, and
So
you know, you could
it's
probably
all
even get
across the
some
board.
big companies that might want to pitch in and donate something. I mean, we got a place out here called Mission Barbecue, and
Mhm.
they just donated like $1 million to some company, and they're all over out here. And it was for I think veterans or terrorism or something along those lines to help fund an initiative for it.
Mhm.
Right.
But yeah,
And you're right. And the one good thing is that you're finding out now is what we all know, that all of us have something in common, right? We all do. Um, Politicians have a tendency to divide the people, but we all basically care about the same thing. We just don't realize that there's others like us out there, so we don't want to speak out, right? Because nobody wants to be sticking out like a sore thumb, right?
Exactly.
Um, you and I don't care, but other people do.
Mhm.
And I know Mike
And
doesn't
it's
care.
understandable. It's understandable.
and there's
You
a
know.
lot of people that do.
Yep.
I want a program on my. You can probably even have it on yours called Neighbor Next Door,
Yep.
and you go through there and you look and you see what people are concerned about. Well, we
Mhm.
had in the last probably week or so, we've had robberies going on in cemeteries. People go visit the
Cemeteries.
gravesite, their cars get broken into, purses get snatched. So what happens? I did a text message to my police chief because I on a good basis with him, and I got his cell phone number, and I said, are you aware of this? And can you send out something department wide to do an area check on these areas? So now you got that deterrence going on.
Mhm.
So people they'll listen, but they have to be aware of what some of the issues are that are going on.
Right.
Mhm.
I think two weekends ago, I was at the Pacoima. You know where the Lowe's is in Pacoima, Oscar?
Yeah.
So I was up there with some members of Tahunga. We were picketing against Monica, right? We wanted the old captain back, and we were out there on his behalf. And I noticed something about Pacoima. They have civilian patrols driving around the Lowe's, and it was two people in a small car. Great deterrent. I saw it. I was really impressed. I'm wondering why more of the cities don't have that, where
I,
maybe they get trained by the police department, to spot certain things, and then they go out
Mhm.
there and it's all volunteer. Um, or Norwalk has a safety police. I don't know. They're not really law enforcement, but they're patrolling the streets of Norwalk where the sheriffs when the sheriffs aren't available. So
Mhm.
something like that would be great for cities. Um, and I don't know where the money would come from, to be honest with you, but I was impressed that Pacoima had that
Mhm.
because I don't see it in my neighborhood in
Yeah.
Pacoima.
Anywhere you look, you will always find something willing to, or somebody willing to volunteer. Anywhere you look, and I know, I think Foothills has something like that. I think it's called like the Valley. I think Valley Traffic Unit. It's they do have a volunteer program as well. I was looking into that because when I was the chairman for the Emergency Preparedness Public Safety Committee through the Sun Valley Neighborhood Council, I wanted us to not necessarily sponsor, but I wanted to promote it because volunteers they're good. They're willing to help and they want to do it and that kind of that lets the officers kind of deal with like the real crime, the
Right,
serious crime.
right, and
So yeah, that's something I would definitely want to
that's kind
promote.
of like the Guardian Angels up in New York.
right.
Mm.
I mean, it's
They'll
very
do.
similar. You see a
Yeah,
patrol car and you just, hey, wait, unless you're really paying attention, you're not sure if it's a real police officer or, in Norwalk, they patrol all day. And I work out there in Norwalk, so I see them all day going up and down the streets. And if there's an accident, they're the ones that pull everything over. They're the ones that take a report.
Hmm.
No law enforcement is involved unless there's injuries. So something to think about, when you get elected,
Oh,
how we can
definitely. I'm
spread the
very big
wealth.
on volunteering. I'm
Yeah.
very, very big on volunteering.
I mean, you got groups out here. We got call them volunteers in police service (VIPs),
Mhm.
and they come out and they can help out with different little things. And if you could even maybe integrate them with what we call a telephone reporting unit with the police department. Hey, you want to come in and take some reports over the phone? Not major crimes. Oh, somebody stole my tires off my car last night. We don't know who did it. and they could take a report for that, and the people are happy because now they got a case number, and their insurance companies can handle it from there.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a lot of little different things you can do with that. And people are glad. You send them through what we call a Citizens Police Academy, and they go through it, and they're all volunteers that go through it. They learn how the police operate, so they've got a better mindset than the average Joe on the street.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of different programs out there that work. We got neighborhood watch signs up. We don't have a neighborhood watch group because nobody wanted to do it. Nobody wanted to, everybody's afraid of, what you see on TV now. Oh, if I get involved with that, I might get shot. They don't want to deal with a lot of that stuff. But another thing is do you guys have alarms that go off in homes all the time?
I haven't heard anything. I live in an apartment, so I don't.
We have this area that I'm in now. I started off here and we had 1,000 calls a day. Now we're up to 1,400 a day. And a lot of it was alarm calls. Well, you pay the alarm company, they monitor your stuff, and who has to respond if they get an alarm? The police do. Right. So now you throw that back on them and you say, hey, guess what? You're going to go there. You're going to have your own little patrol to go out there. And if you see something, an open door, broken window, then the police will come out there. Mm-hmm. So you take a lot of the pressure off of the police department. I mean, they won't do it here for whatever reason.
The only scary thing about that is that, especially in my area, we're having a lot of burglaries. Lot of burglaries. And so obviously, if there's somebody inside, I don't really think it's something that a volunteer should be taking care of because they're not armed or anything like that.
Exactly. I mean, that's why I say, if they see an open door, open window, or something along that line, then they could say,
then call the police.
Have the police come out here. We got an open door. Boop, they're on their way. Right. And that would be a priority. So they would take care of that. But that would take, I would say 95% of alarm calls that were going off out here, false. You may have a balloon bouncing around your house that has a helium in it, and it sets off a motion detector in your house. False alarm. And now the police are going to be able to handle more calls that need to be looked at.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it makes sense, but I think the difference with us here, at least in my city, is the lack of education. So we have the neighborhood watch program, right? We do have it, but they hold meetings at 9 a.m, right? Or 10 a.m. So who are you going to have in those meetings, right? You're going to have old retired people, right? No. Old retired people with nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. But if you want to reach the community, you got to make it accessible to them so that they can come, right?
Yeah, have it on a Saturday.
Have it in the evenings. Have it in the evenings or even on a Saturday.
Saturday, right? And you'll get more participation because I wanted to go to Coffee with a Cop. I couldn't get my boss to let me go, right? So I couldn't attend, which sad because I wanted to meet the new captain for Foothill Division. But they don't think, and I don't want to say outside the box because I don't think that's outside the box. I think because those people have been so ingrained in the neighborhood watch program on a personal level that they don't think that way, right? They're home all day and they don't realize that, some single moms out there have to work, right?
Exactly. Single dads too.
Single dad, that's all I was gonna say. Single dads have to work to support the family. Right. I work all day. I work 10 to 12 hours a day. So I don't have the luxury to spend 3 hours here when my job is, an hour and a half away every day. There's no way I can drive back and forth. So
thank God for Zoom. Yeah, thank God for Zoom. I'm the same. I work full time and I want to attend the meetings. I want to go because I actually want to, like you said, meet the chief or meet the captain and talk to the other officers. But I have to do it on Zoom because I work full time and I can't go.
The good thing you can do is you've got a lot of schools that you could have the meeting at because say a Saturday, have a meeting at a school. You're going to get more people to go to the school. Everybody be aware of it because like with the burglaries, I was on that neighbor next door program and people said, geez, somebody weird came up to my house. So I explained to them, well, they come to your house, they'll knock on your door, and nobody answers. They'll go around your back door and they break in. They don't know that. And most of the crimes for burglaries happen between the hours of 10 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. You know, they think, oh, so somebody's going to get me at night. Nobody's going to get you at night. I don't think I've ever had a burglary at night because they know somebody's probably home. But those, while you're working, they're going to come to your house and that's what they're going to do. But they have to be aware. If you see a guy sitting out in front of your house when you're going to work, maybe jot the tag number down, you know, in case there is a burglary. So they have a clue to go off of to find out who's doing these things.
Right. And a lot of it is fear too. People are afraid to get engaged, right? So we got to make it so they're not afraid. We need to just like you're doing, Oscar, going door to door and talking to people. That's the only way to do it because they got to trust you, right? Once they trust you, they'll follow the lead. The problem is we don't have enough people that are doing that out there. We just don't. The only people out there doing it are the ones that have ulterior motives why they're doing it, right? Your favorite phrase, political actors, right? They care now when the election's over, once they lose, or even if they win,
disappear.
They forget about everything they promised, right?
They go back into their caves.
Right. So, like, I do appreciate that the mayor signed that emergency, but I don't appreciate, sending out, if you need help, call 211. Well, that's great for me. It's great for you to have a cell phone, but, we'll use Patrick. He doesn't have a cell phone. How's he going to call?
But the immigrants do. When they come across the border, they get them.
Hey.
So it doesn't make sense.
Well, nothing makes sense, but the only thing that makes sense is in order to fix what we have, we start where we're at, right? At the local level, right? That's the best place to start. We change LA, God help us, and then we can move on to LA County.
You got to get the people involved, get them riled up, and get the people involved.
And they don't get involved unless it happens to them directly. Right. So going door to door and having them see, oh, wait, this guy, he's running for office.
He cares.
He was asking me what I think, right? That's what's important, what the constituency thinks, right? What bothers you, neighbor? Is it crime? Is it the dirty streets? Is it the homeless? Then you find out what's really bugging people versus, what we think or what we assume or what we see on social media.
Exactly.
Because I think I see a lot of stuff on social media about grooming, right? I see it all the time. And people blaming the organizations and the groups that are doing these things, right? I don't blame any of them. I blame the parents. Because as a parent, you decide if your child can go to one of these, transgender parties. You make that decision, right? So for us to complain about the city of Burbank or what happened in Texas is stupid because the problem is the parents, right? Parents need to take charge, responsibility for their kids, whether it's that or whether it's school choice, which is one of my pet peeves, right? To me, parents,
what I always said, and I hope this doesn't give me negative points, is that if some parents, if they police their kids, the real police wouldn't have to.
Exactly.
A lot of parents, they just don't care. They just don't care. That's exactly why Knott's Berry Farm has the new chaperone policy, because a lot of parents, they just go and they just drop off their kids right there, and that's when they're all fighting. That's when they're doing riots, and I've seen it because even before that, I would take my daughter, and I'm just like, damn, you just see like teenagers everywhere and just acting like troublemakers. To where finally, like Knott's Berry Farm put their foot down there, and they're like, okay, if you're going to be a teenager, if you want to come, the teenagers, you have to have someone 21 or over, right? And it all comes down if the parents police their kids, the real police wouldn't have to, and it all comes down, like you said, it all starts at home. It all starts at home. So yeah,
and it's funny you say that because when I first met Will, and I can't even remember 3 or 4 years ago. He mentioned to me that I know, right? And I don't know how we met still. I still don't know how we met, but we met. We've always talked about this, that really, if you think about it, government starts at home, right? In your house, in your home.
It does. It does.
if you're married or not, it doesn't matter. It starts at home. So whatever decision you make that affects your daughter, you think about that, right? When you make that decision, how is this going to impact her, positive or negatively? And if it's going to be negative, more than likely you're not going to go that route, right?
Exactly.
So the family union as a whole, the husband and spouse, whatever your gender is, that doesn't really matter, decides what's best for the entire family. And that's where I think we're lacking in politicians, because they don't make decisions based on the whole constituency, right? They make it on specific groups of the constituency, which is unfair to
Sad
the rest
truth.
of them, right?
Sad truth.
We have Monica Rodriguez, who doesn't like coming to Salentahunga because she claims that we're not inclusive in Salentahunga. So she doesn't come, which is okay by me. I really don't care, but it's not fair to the constituency that she's not engaged in our community like she is in Pacoima, in Silmar. Her definition of inclusion and mine might be different. So at some point we need to talk so that we can clear the air, the politician versus the constituency. Why do you think we're not inclusive? Maybe we're not and we don't realize it, but nobody talks, right? Just like in a family, when people don't talk, what happens? The family breaks up, something goes wrong,
Exactly.
right? Whether it's with cousins, whether it's brothers and sisters, when there's no communication and everybody's making assumptions, you can't fix anything.
Exactly. And that's what I'm a big supporter of. You have to communicate. Any type of relationship, there has to be communication. That's what I tell my daughter all the time. I was like, tell me, baby, if there's something that I'm doing that you don't like or that bothers you or something, let me know, because maybe I don't know that it's bothering you. You have to tell me, even if you think it's going to hurt my feelings or I'm going to get mad or something, I want you to tell me so I know that it's bothering you and I won't do it anymore. It all comes down to communication.
What do you think, Mikey?
Well, I agree. But a lot of these parents don't also know maybe what their kids' interests are. And if you can pick your kid's brain at a young age and say, what do you think you'd like to do when you get older? There's always some type of organization or avenue you can go down. Little Johnny says, gee, I'm 15 right now, but I think when I get older, I want to be a fireman. Well, great. They got volunteer fire departments. I know in my area they do. You can do that, get free training, free educate, and your grades. My mother used to call me a dumbass because my grades weren't that great. So I took the emergency medical technician class at 16, became a medic, became captain of the rescue squad, was delivering babies at 17, and my grades went up because I found something that I was interested in, and it kept me off the streets. So there's that. There's Civil Air Patrol, which California I know has got one. Every state's got one. And they do search and rescue work. They do aerospace education. And, it's got a big different gambit. And if you hit a certain rank while you're young and you're under 18, and you hit I think it's warrant officer or captain, I can't recall, but you could go in the military with 2 stripes automatically.
Yep, absolutely.
And so these things help out, and it kind of helps them guide them where they got to go. The Navy's got a group, the Young Marines have got a group. There's a lot of different things. The Scouts, I was in all these things. And I turned out.
But remember this: the parents have to do their part, right? And they live in a busy time. Sometimes they work 5-6 days a week. But again, my theory is that if you were in it to have a kid, then if you only sleep 2 hours a day, then you sleep 2 hours a day, right? Because you brought that child into this world. It wasn't an accident. You wanted a child. So you're responsible for that child. And that's where we lack, because it's just easy to say, oh, I've had a long day, or I went shopping Saturday and I'm exhausted. I can't do anything else. Go play video games on your Xbox or PS5, instead of sitting down with the kids and talking to them about what it's important to them, and help your kids understand what's happening, right? Because I'll give you an example. There's a school in Roland Heights that uses CNN to teach kids, right, about history and world events, right? which is to me a big mistake. Right?
Yeah.
Any media teaching our kids in the classroom is bogus. Right? So kids are going to be upset. They're going to see things that aren't probably true, just opinions
They're
of
going to
what
be
might happen.
depressed. They're going to be scared, kind of
Yeah,
like how
they're gonna,
most people are.
they're gonna come,
Kind of how
and
most people are.
we need to do a better job of raising the kids,
Right.
because that's the
And
future, and we can't hand them what looks like we're going to hand them when we're gone, because this is a mess.
And one of the big things is if you get involved in, say, you can't make it to take your kid to a Civil Air Patrol meeting. Well, you may meet somebody there that would be willing to help pick your child up along with theirs and go to these things. So you've kind of got another avenue to go down.
Or if
And
not, the next best thing would be having after school programs.
Right.
yeah,
Maybe bringing
absolutely.
that Civil Air Patrol or something, bringing that to like the school.
Exactly.
Obviously they can't take their aircraft and everything like that, but at least they can have an after school program where they can introduce them to that.
Yeah, they can.
I would want to have like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, they have search and rescue, how they train you to do emergency services type stuff. A plane crashes in a mountain, the Air Force calls them up and say, I think actually now they're called Civil Air Patrol in Space. They've added the space in there too, but then they'll say, okay, well, you guys put on your uniforms, meet us here. We got to go out and find this plane that may have crashed in a mountain, and they'll do it. But you get them going with the basic stuff, so they get excited to do it.
You get them exposed
Exactly.
to that.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Oscar. Go ahead.
Like one thing I wanted to do is that I wanted to, when I was on the Sun Valley Neighborhood Council, is that I wanted to establish after school teen CERT programs. It's a community emergency response team, but for teens, because then at that point you expose them to everything that has to do with like emergency services, like if you want to be a nurse, if you want to do search and rescue, if you want to be a firefighter, a police officer, a doctor. There's so many things that have to do with it. We have to show them the positive sides to that. And
the American Red Cross can even help out with that, because they have youth programs. Or when I was there, we had youth programs. I worked at a hospital in a physical therapy section in a military base, so I got to see what was going on. I got to help out a little bit. I felt like I was contributing. And you're off the street. You're not doing the drugs. And you're
doing something positive. And the Red Cross teaches CPR. It teaches basic first aid. It teaches you everything to expose kids to that. You never know. There might be a 12-year-old that does that and loves it, and they'll be a doctor or something.
Or actually saves a brother or sister from choking.
Exactly.
There's a lot of avenues that are out that we got to find out where they all are, so that we can make like a list and say, you got this, but you got to know what your kid might be interested in. And they'll say, oh, I'm not interested in this. But I had told my one younger grandchild, and I said, what do you want to be when you get older? And he comes over and plays with my dogs and feeds them and stuff like this. He says, I think I want to be a vet. And I said, good, keep your grades going. There's Virginia Tech, there's Cornell. They teach veterinary programs. You're going in the right way if you can get your mind there. Stay clean, don't go on drugs. I mean, when I applied for the department in my county, it was like ridden with drugs, and they said, you've never tried marijuana? No, I didn't have any inkling to do it. And they said, why? I said, because I knew where I wanted to go in life, and at that time it was totally illegal. So why screw it up?
And it's an outreach issue, and that's why I like your campaign, because everything's an outreach issue. You know about Aaron Schwartzbart Motor Gospel program, right?
I sure do.
That is a great program. It's out there for people, and I've talked to him. He'll take old people, young people. He doesn't care, right? Anybody that wants to learn how to work on vehicles, he gets them involved in his racing. To keep kids from driving out there like maniacs.
Exactly.
So there's people out there like him that want to help. We just have to find them and expose them to everybody, right?
Exactly.
And think about this. Whatever these kids do, whether it's volunteer or not, that's something they can put on their resume let's say
Yeah.
they decide to go to college. Hey, I volunteered. I did this. I was part of this program in my neighborhood. I was a volunteer firefighter, or I was a cadet with LAPD. You
Right.
know, I was an Army ROTC, Air Force, anything. We just have to make sure that they understand that there's value to what they're
There's a
doing.
lot of value. When
Right?
you're a kid, when you're 12, 13, 14, you don't know how it's going to affect you later on down the life or later on in life. But all those little things, it teaches you discipline.
Right.
It teaches you how to work hard for something to achieve something. In my early 20s, I used to be an amateur boxer. And that taught me a lot of things to where, hey, if I work towards something, if I discipline myself, I can achieve a goal that I want. And it comes with that, just discipline.
Yeah, and them understanding the value of what they're doing. Because I think sometimes they don't really understand. Mom is making me do this, or dad is making me do this. Mom and dad are not explaining why they're doing this, right? They're just not. I just need you to be occupied for a couple hours. That's what they're probably thinking, instead of, hey, I'm doing this because I'm going to help the community. And the benefit to me is that if I decide I want to go to college, I can use this as a reference. Hey, this is what I did. Maybe they might get a scholarship. Maybe they get some recognition from the school they want to go to. It gives them something to look forward to. But we don't explain it, right? Because we're just like, just do it because I said so. That's the mentality, right?
Exactly. At that point, they're going to do it and just roll their eyes the whole time.
Right. And just like adults, right? If you tell them to do something, or I don't want you to do this, what are they going to do? They're going to do exactly what you said not to do, right? Just because they don't understand. In my opinion, I'm giving people the benefit of the doubt.
No,
They
you're
don't
right. You're right.
understand what the benefit to what they're supposed to be doing is. And we don't do, as a society, we don't do a good enough job explaining to them why something is important, right? People that know me, some people love me, some people hate me, because some assume that I'm one way when I'm not. Right? I truly believe that everyone has a right to live their life the way they want to live. I don't care what you do, who you do it with, as long as you don't try to push that stuff on me, I don't care. Right? If you want to groom your kids to be transgender, that's on you. But don't complain when something horrible happens, because that's really what's going on in today's world.
Yeah,
You know that LA is the hub for all this pedophile crap that goes on in the world, all the recruitment that goes on for the kids. LA is probably one of the best cities to do that in, right? Because we have so many transient people that come in, right? But we look the other way, right? As a society, right? It's not happening to my kids, so whatever, right? And that's what we need to stop. And it comes with people trusting the people in leadership, because that's what matters, the people in leadership. And when they're nonchalant or they don't care, like Gascon, there's nothing that man could do. He could save a life, and I still think he's a piece of shit. Right?
He ruined his credibility.
He can't. The only thing he can do for me is resign and go away. Right? As far as I'm concerned, because he doesn't care.
That would help out the community a lot.
Right? He truly doesn't care about what happens in our community. He doesn't.
He just
claims
wants
he
the
does.
George Soros books.
Yeah, he doesn't care about anything, and that's my concern with the new mayor. Right? My concern is that it's all an act, just like when she was a congressperson. It was all an act. She didn't really do anything for us. So what is she going to do now? She signed the emergency order, and now we're waiting on city council to make a decision on that. And I'm sure they're going to approve it, because they'd be morons if they didn't approve it.
Yeah, of course.
But, again, I think that your campaign is going to be an eye-opener for a lot of people, because I don't hear anybody talking about outreach. I hear people talking about, I'm going to solve crime, I'm going to do this for the homeless, but nobody's talking about going out and talking door to door to people, which I can tell you there was a campaign for city council, and I forget what district, but the BLM member won the race, and she won it by going door to door. She didn't talk about her BLM background. She just talked about what was important to them, and that's what she talked about in her campaign. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and she won. She won handily, to say the least.
Wow.
And she's a BLM supporter. but she was smart how she did it. And I think in a lot of ways, we need to be smart how we do it the way the other side does it, because they're very successful at what they do and we're not. And we're the, I want to say, the good citizen. We want to take care of our neighborhoods. I want my wife and grandkids to be able to walk at night and not worry about something happening. I want to be able to go to Vaughn's here in Tahunga and not have to worry about having a weapon in my truck just in case somebody tries to carjack me. Those are things that I think about every day now when I didn't in the past.
Me too. Same here.
I
I go for walks at night. I go for walks, with my daughter, and we pass by all these tents. We pass by, the mentally ill people right there in the park, just yelling at an imaginary demon. And I'm just like, this is not okay. This is not all right. I don't want my daughter subjected to this, but I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. They don't want their kids to be subjected to all this. We deserve better.
It's kind of comical because I had dealt with a man and a woman who were from Connecticut when I was working on Capitol Police, and they would come by, and I would talk to them every day because we're all people. And I said, "How did you end up in D.C.?" They said, "Well, the judge up in Connecticut said we're going to be placed in travel therapy," and they put them on a bus and sent them to D.C. They took their kids and put their kid in in the system, and they would come by, and I would talk to them, and I said, "What are you guys up to?" "Well, we're working on trying to get jobs," and they're living out of a homeless shelter, and they finally got them, and they said, "We got jobs." Well, I said, "Well, what kind of jobs are you doing?" "We're going to be security guards." I said, "Fantastic." And now they're going to save their money, try to get back to Connecticut and reclaim their child. And I said, "Good." And they were the oddest looking couple, but I couldn't fault them for that because they were doing the right thing. And then I saw the ones that were like chasing their demons, like you were saying.
Right. And I think we lost a lot of the homeless issue with drugs and mental illness because in California, we closed a lot of the mental institutions down quite a few years ago. So there's nowhere to take these people, right, to help them, or at least try to help them. I mean, we can't help everybody, and I know that, right? We're never going to solve the problem completely, and I know that, and I understand that. But I don't think we do enough to try to figure out, besides ask for more money from the taxpayers, to figure out how we can really help them. You got all these government buildings that aren't being used. You really care?
It's funny that you say that. There was an audit done, I think maybe like 2009 or 2010 or something like that. And there's over 10,000 buildings that sit vacant in the city of LA. Over 10,000. Can you believe that? We can't get two of them and turn those into a temporary housing facility? Seriously? We can't do that?
It's funny you say that. I was stationed in a National Guard building in Highland Park. They kicked us out. It belonged to Parks and Recs, or Recs and Parks, whatever they want to be called. They kicked us out because they were going to make it a daycare center during the day and a homeless center at night. Right? You can drive, and that was in 1992, I think, or 93. It was in the early 90s. And you go by that building and it's still empty. They didn't do anything to it. They put wooden, where the windows were, they put wood to cover the windows, and now it's just a parking lot for government vehicles in the back. They kicked us out. We were paying rent. We were paying the city, and they still kicked us out because that's what they were going to do. That was the excuse they used. And again, the building is still empty. You drive by there and you look at it. Every time I see it, I'm like, these guys are crazy. They could have used it. They could use that facility for something more than that. It's got showers in it.
If you go on Van Nuys Boulevard, right there on Van Nuys Boulevard in Roscoe, there's a big old vacant building that the homeless live in. And you can tell because there's broken windows and everything, but it's a big old building. And we can't take that and turn that into a temporary homeless shelter.
Yeah.
And another thing, like,
you could just renovate it.
Exactly. It's their standee. Just fix it up. All the officers or whatever it was, just make it into a temporary housing facility. They spend over $800,000 to build one housing unit.
Yeah.
Why can't we look into the possibility? And this is something that I do want to look into. how we got to look into the possibility of having maybe 3D printed homes. You know, they were doing this a while back, and they said for like 4,000 or 5,000, you can have a 3D printed home.
Wow.
Why can't we look into that possibility?
I've even seen
Well,
containers made out of homes.
You know why? Because
That
it
too.
doesn't make money. It doesn't make money for them. That's the thing. So great. You said about the home, 800,000. So what happens is those contracts are union contracts, number one, right? They don't allow an outside entity to bid for them. So it's all union, good old boy contracts. So obviously when it's a union project, guess what? It costs more, right? Because you have an electrician that is now working in the union, he's making 40 to 50 bucks an hour. But if he's working in the union, he's making 80 to 90 bucks an hour. Right. So
Right.
there goes part of your cost, goes up, especially in California. Workers' comp is outrageous. Right. So you want to decrease the cost, make it an even playing field. Anybody can bid, and just like it always supposed to be, the lowest bidder wins. And if it's a civilian contractor who's non-union and he says he can do it at a lower cost, then hey, we need to go with that
Get
person.
them. We need them. Yeah.
So,
lower taxes.
right.
I'm done paying taxes. That's one thing. I am done paying taxes. You know, we pay taxes for absolutely anything and everything. And where does all that money go to? You know, and like I keep saying, like, you know, I'm a single dad. I work 40, 50 hours a week. I pay all these taxes. I'm done paying taxes. And I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way.
But they're afraid to speak out.
But like they're afraid to speak out.
Earlier on the show, I mentioned what DeSantis is doing in Florida, right? It doesn't sound like a big deal, but if you live in Florida and he's reducing the tolls by 50% for everyone in the state, right? And he's stopping any taxes on any diapers, formulas. He's stopping taxes on dog food. And it sounds funny, but
it adds up.
You know,
I was thinking the same thing. It adds up.
It adds up. And he said on his speech, I'm doing this because I have a surplus of money in the state, right? California had, what was it, $8 billion surplus?
Wow.
And the governor is giving it back to people for gas, which really doesn't help, right? Because it's only $1,000. You want to help us, governor? Give us a tax break, lower gas tax, do something learn from DeSantis and do something similar to that. We don't have
all your reparations.
Yeah,
exactly.
Don't get me started on that. Do not get me started on that.
That was the biggest joke I heard. I thought it was funny at first, and I was like, "You got."
You know what it is? Just more taxes.
Right.
It's more buying votes.
Yeah.
Well, think about this, right? Since you brought it up, think about this. California was a slave-free state, right? California never had any slaves during that time. Never. So why am I paying reparations for where you didn't have slaves in California, right? So I mean, if you want to pay somebody in California, pay the Mexicans. You stole California from them.
I was thinking the same thing, the same exact thing.
I'm going to pay reparations for a state that didn't allow slaves.
Right.
Now, I'm not a brain surgeon like our governor is, but that makes no sense to me. And paying somebody $223,000.
That's unreal.
Because, you know, everybody's going to come out of the closet. You're going to have other groups coming out saying, hey, wait a minute. What about the Native Americans?
What about the Native Americans?
Exactly.
What about the Japanese in the 1940s? They were putting camps right here.
So everybody's going to want something. So are we just going to do it for African Americans, or we're going to do it across the board? So you're right, Mike. It's all about votes. Just like the $1,052, right? It's all about votes, and people are so naive and so
they're all about me.
Unfortunately, the people don't have a voice. We don't have a voice. That's all it is. Our voices don't matter. We have buffoons that are running the state, and the people's voice do not matter. That's why we need new leadership. We need new people in leadership positions that care for the people that are done with all this crap.
Clean house.
Clean house. And you sound like Kevin Kiley. You know who Kevin Kiley is?
I don't know.
Kevin Kiley was the biggest pain in the ass to our governor. He ran for Congress and he won. He's a little short guy, carries a big stick, and he's all about the people. And that's what we need, people like that.
And
He
so
was
am
one
I,
of
because
the
I am the people. Like I said, I'm not a political guy, nothing. Like I work 40, 50 hours a week. I've worked full time. I'm a single dad. I'm tired of paying taxes. I'm tired of paying taxes for absolutely anything and everything. I'm done with all that.
And what do you get for
We need to
what do you
stop
get for
electing.
your taxes? Nothing.
Huh?
yeah.
What do you
Hey
get for your
guys,
taxes? Nothing.
hey guys, we're at the top of the hour. I want to thank you very much for being on the show tonight, Oscar. Oscar, text me the address for Saturday, and I'll come and help you for a couple hours on Saturday. Okay?
That sounds perfect. I'll be at the Ralphs on Laurel Canyon and Roscoe from 11 to 2. Anybody, please come out and sign or come talk to me about your issues, my issues, whatever. Please.
And everybody that lives in CD6, LA County District 6, come check him out. Talk to him. Don't listen to me or him. Make up your own mind by talking to him, because that's what we need.
Just
People
come
like
talk.
Oscar.
That's all.
Okay.
You
Thank you
got it.
very much, guys. Good night.
Hey guys,
Good night, LA.
have a great
Good night,
night.
guys.